Classified Crime is on the case of Jessica Copeland, and today we're going to read an article from the Palatka Daily News about a mom who took a vacation and left her child and pets alone. This is an article from the Palatka Daily News from August 5th, 2025 by Sarah Cavaccini, and it's titled 7 Dogs Found Wallowing in Filth Inside Home. You can see the dog here, and the caption says, an emaciated dog is walked out of a waste-filled Palatka home where authorities reported finding it, 6 other dogs, and a teen boy. Photo courtesy of Putnam County Sheriff's Office, and you can see the dog has ribs in clear view. His feet look like they're discolored and the floor looks filthy. A Palatka woman left her child and 7 dogs alone for 2 weeks in an animal waste-filled home without providing the dogs proper food and water while she visited Las Vegas, according to authorities. Jessica Ann Copeland, who turned 37 Tuesday, was charged that morning with counts of conservation of animals via inflicting pain or physical injuries and 1 count of child neglect, all felonies, according to a Putnam County Sheriff's Office incident report. Authorities also charged her with 4 misdemeanor counts of conservation of animals via depriving animals. Copeland was booked into the Putnam County Jail, where she remained Tuesday afternoon on a $9,500 bond. When deputies entered the Songbird Road residence Monday night after receiving reports of animal neglect, the suspect's teen son said Copeland left July 21st to go on a vacation in Las Vegas, according to the report. He was not given the proper necessities to survive and relied on others to bring him food, Detective Matthew Westbury wrote in the report. The Florida Department of Children and Families has been notified, officials said. The son allowed deputies to enter the home, which reeked of feces and urine and contained 7 dogs in poor health conditions. In the living room, I observed all walking areas to the other bedrooms encased in a thick layer of brown white matter identified as animal feces, Westbury wrote. On the floor, I observed multiple crock-pot bowls filled with water with unknown insects floating and flying around the surface. That is so sad. Here's her mugshot. The teen said the house has been kept in that state for years because Copeland refuses to clean, according to the report. So, according to the child, this did not happen over the course of 2 weeks. Of the 7 dogs, 3 were found locked away. Deputies found a black pit bull mix locked in a bedroom without food or water, and the room was covered in 4 inches of feces, Westbury wrote. 4 inches of feces covering the floor is a significant amount of time for that dog to have been in there. He reported a brown and white black-mouthed cur in a locked room, also covered in the same layer of excrement without food and water. Deputies located an emaciated brown and white pit bull mix in a locked, blanket-covered crate behind a couch with no food or water, according to the report. A black lab, a black and white chihuahua, a chihuahua mix, and a chiweenie were in the living room free to roam around, but without the proper access to food or water, according to the report. Allison Waters Merritt, a spokeswoman for the sheriff's office, said the dogs have been given to the Putnam County Animal Services Department. And this is a photo of the conditions of the home, which is terrible. Authorities reported finding 7 dogs and a child in this Palatka home when they visited to do a welfare check on the child and animals. So thank goodness someone called in a welfare check, or this might have gone unnoticed for even longer. This photo is also from Putnam County Sheriff's Office. She said animal services officials will rehabilitate the dogs, which are expected to survive. These dogs are going to need some care, Waters Merritt said, and they're going to need some help. Sheriff Gator DeLoach called the situation heartbreaking and infuriating. A mother made the conscious choice to abandon her own child in a filth-ridden home, surrounded by the stench of animal feces and suffering of neglected animals, while she indulged on a 2-week birthday trip to Las Vegas, he said. This wasn't neglect. This was deliberate cruelty both to her child and to the animals she left behind. Let me be clear, our community will not tolerate this level of selfish disregard for human and animal life. She now has time for reflection. People who would like to donate or help the dogs can email Deputy County Administrator Julianne Young, and the email address is there. So that's the article. And over here on the court docket, we see her charges. There are 8. 1, neglect of a child. 4 charges, confinement of animals without food. And 3 charges, cruelty to animals. Now, the only thing available to open at this time is the arrest report, which I will open and we can look at. And then there's also the first hearing minutes from the court with the bond that was set, an affidavit for indigent status, which means she's going to request public defender, an order of no contact, probably meaning she can't contact her child while he's in protective services, and then notice of electronic service. So those are the only other things posted at this time. So let's take a look at the arrest report. And no court date has been set. Okay, so this is the arrest report on August 5th, 2025 at 1:44 a.m. I have redacted any addresses. So Jessica Copeland, date of birth 8/5/88, age 36. The arrest date and time was 8/5/2025 at 4 a.m. at her residence. And these are the charges. So 3rd-degree felony, neglect of a child without great bodily harm, 1 count. And then there are 4 different counts of the first misdemeanor charge of conservation of animals, and you can read right here the charge description. I'm not going to read that out loud because of community guidelines, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4 counts of that, and then there are 3 counts of 3rd-degree felony conservation animals, and you can read the description on those 3 counts here. And then this is the author's narrative report. On August 5th, 2025, I was requested to assist patrol on a possible animal neglect case. Upon my arrival with Deputy Erminick, we made contact with AR, who was in control of the residence. AR stated he has been home for approximately 2 weeks alone, and different people come and check on him and bring him food. AR stated his mother, Jessica Copeland, left on July 21st, 2025 to go on vacation in Las Vegas, and he was not given the proper necessities to survive and relied on others to bring him food. I requested to see the conditions of the animals and their living conditions. AR stated the house was in poor condition and there was poop everywhere. Entering the front door of the residence, I was met by multiple dogs in various poor conditions, as well as the smell of feces and urine. In the living room, I observed all walking areas to other bedrooms encased in a thick layer of brown-white matter identified as animal feces. On the floor, I observed multiple crock-pot bowls filled with water with unknown insects floating and flying around the surface. It's really sad. I asked AR how long has the house been in this condition, and he stated it's been that way for years. AR stated this is the way Jessica keeps the house and refuses to clean. The following is the description of the dog with the charge for each. Onyx, a black pit mix located locked in a bedroom with no food or water and was in a room in approximately 4 inches deep of animal feces. Onyx appeared emaciated and neglected, which caused repeated infliction of unnecessary pain and suffering, contrary to Florida statute. Chase, brown with white feet, black mouth cur, located locked in a bedroom with no food or water and was in a room in approximately 4 inches deep of animal feces. Chase appeared emaciated and neglected, which caused repeated infliction of unnecessary pain and suffering, contrary to Florida statute. Hara, brown, and white pit bull mix located in a cage behind the couch, covered with a blanket, no food or water, extremely emaciated and neglected, which caused repeated infliction of unnecessary pain and suffering contrary to Florida statute. And he did use the adjective extremely emaciated on this dog. The other two, it just said appeared emaciated. So this one was probably in the worst condition. Big Boy, large black lab and mastiff, was being deprived of necessary sustenance by living in a condition where he did not have access to the correct food or water to survive, living in a living room where the majority of the floor was covered in animal feces, contrary to Florida statute. Faye, black and white Chihuahua, was being deprived of necessary sustenance by living in a condition where he did not have access to the correct food or water to survive, living in a living room where the majority of the floor was covered in animal feces, contrary to Florida statute. Bella, tricolor Chihuahua mix, was being deprived of necessary sustenance by living in a condition where he did not have access to the correct food or water to survive, living in the living room where the majority of the floor was covered in animal feces, contrary to Florida statute. And finally, we have Kitty, Chiweenie Brown, was being deprived of necessary sustenance by living in a condition where he did not have access to the correct food or water to survive, living in the living room where the majority of the floor was covered in animal feces, contrary to Florida statute. Jessica Copeland did fail to or omit to provide AW, a child with care, supervision, and services necessary to maintain the child's physical and mental health, including but not limited to food, nutrition, clothing, shelter, supervision, medicine, and mental services that a prudent person would consider essential for the well-being of the child. And said Jessica Copeland was the child's parent, an adult household member, or other person responsible for the child's welfare, or failed to make a reasonable effort to protect AW, a child, from abuse, neglect, or exploitation by another person, even though said Jessica Copeland was the child's parent, an adult household member, or other person responsible for the child's welfare, contrary to Florida statutes. So that's basically the arrest report. Now, looking back at the picture of the conditions of the house, sadly, this is not the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's totally unacceptable conditions for a child, and animals should not be kept in doors like this and not able to be walked or run around outside, not able to be access to water and food. It's totally unacceptable conditions, and the child told the police, hey, she just refuses to clean. She just never cleans. He basically said she does not clean. So everybody has their own situations they're going through. You can see the Christmas tree over here by the door. I mean, there's been years that I didn't put my Christmas tree up right away. There was a year that I took it, just picked it up and put it in a walk-in closet and brought it out the next year because I was working full time and didn't have the capacity to like go get all the boxes back out and put it away. I'm not saying, you have to be the tidiest and organized to be a good mother, but this is completely unacceptable for the child and the animals. The animals don't look like they've been eating. I doubt any of them have been able to go to a vet. There could be parasitic agents going on in the home with, animals can hold parasites, and then it's just completely unsanitary. There's no way to properly keep everyone clean and healthy in this environment. So I am very sad for these animals, and especially for the child who was left to care for everything. I don't know his age. He may or may not really have been old enough to manage this kind of situation, and to just go on a vacation, that's not necessary. You don't have to go on a vacation. Everyone needs a break, but a vacation is not necessary when you have this going on. That's the last thing that should be on your mind. Providing adequate care for your child is your first and foremost responsibility as a parent, period. But I'm very thankful that someone called for a welfare check, because had that not happened, this child and these animals would continue to suffer in these conditions for who knows how long. So that being said, if you have a neighbor or someone in your life that you suspect there is something suspicious going on, you can make an anonymous welfare check. Not because you're mad at your neighbor or want something bad to happen to them, because don't waste resources and time. But if you suspect abuse, you should say something. There are anonymous ways to report. And at least if there's nothing going on, at least, okay, you have that off your conscience. Your mind is clear. And, at least you know that you tried. But don't ignore it, because innocent people can be suffering and there's really not a lot they can do about it. And innocent animals have no voice. So please, if you know of a situation like this or similar to this, you need to say something. Don't just ignore it. So I will continue to follow this case, keep up with the court docket, and let you know what happens. And until next time, thank you so much for watching.